Welcome into the KPRC 2 Sports Plus podcast. My name is Chancellor Johnson, and obviously it is football season, so you know we're talking Texans, and we have a special guest in the building, DJ Bien-Aime of ESPN, the Texans beat writer. And DJ, I know you've been here in H-Town a couple of months. How's Houston treating you?
Houston treated me very well. My first couple of weeks, though, my allergies were killing me. I thought I wasn't going to make it to week one. A preseason, not the season, but yeah, man, I've enjoyed it, man. I enjoy living in Houston more than I enjoy living in New York, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, well, obviously coming from New York to Houston, it's a big change, I'd imagine, for you.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, going from everything being clustered on top of each other, rent being $5,000 for a closet, to now, now there's a lot more space in my apartment. I'm paying a lot less, My crib is nicer. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of benefits living in Houston. The food, the people. Gotcha. But yeah, man, I'm enjoying living out here, man.
Gotcha. And for your first game covering the Texans, we had ourselves a doozy.
Yeah.
Versus the Colts at home, 20-20 tie. But how they got there was really interesting. Obviously, they were up 20-3 going to the fourth quarter, but we'll get into that and how they blew the lead there late, but we got to start with 4th and 3. Less than 40 seconds remaining. Right. Lovie Smith decides to punt. Mm-hmm. What was your reaction?
So in the moment, I'm like, what are they doing? They should be trying to go for the win. But in reality, I think where most of the focus should be on is the 3rd and 1 call, right? Because they gave it to Rex Burkhead. I don't really have an issue with it, them giving to Rex Burkhead or Dameon Pierce. I don't really care about that. It's the play call. It's the design. Because you made it obvious. You brought in Charlie Heck. And you made him eligible, so defense already kind of had an idea. You're probably going to try to run the ball in this
Based
instance.
Off personnel,
exactly,
and distance for sure.
Right, and rewatching the film, Britt, the center, he got beat pretty cleanly. So even if he holds that block, I saw there was 2 other defenders that were coming through the B gaps, 44, number 20 from the Colts. So they were going to be there ready to make the play on the running back anyway. And again, you took Brandon Cooks out, you had Chris Moore in. So in reality, you completely telegraphed it. I think if you wanted to run the ball situation, they should have did what they did on 2nd and 1, where they were spread out and they only had 6 people in the box versus on that 3rd down when they had 7 in the box. And up to that point, Rex Burkhead averaged 9. Well, he did not average. He had 9 yards on 5 carries against a 7-man box, which is what they faced on that 3rd down. So the numbers, everything went against them in that situation. Them punting, obviously, I disagree with that decision too, but I think more focus should be on that 3rd and 1, because if they do something a little more creative, maybe they say they throw the ball, play action, whatever, maybe they get a first down, then keep the ball moving, things like that. But again, hindsight is 20/20, so I always try to be cognizant of that. But I think a lot of focus should be on that 3rd and 1 that put them in that 4th and 3 situation.
I think that 3rd and 1, I think you brought up a really good point. And then you can also reference just not blowing a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter as well.
Right.
We'll get into that. But I think for me, initially watching that unfold on that 4th down, I was a little bit disappointed in Lovie Smith, if I want to be honest. Game 1.
Right.
You're at home on the opponent's side of the field.
Right.
I think as the Texans, the front office has talked about many times, they're trying to build a winning culture.
Exactly.
And I think in that circumstance, I would have liked to have seen Lovie go for it.
Absolutely.
Now, at the end of the day, you look up and you see the standings now. They end up tying, and obviously it's the Colts. They tie with the Colts in the standings, but the Jaguars lost and the Titans lost. And now Tennessee has to go and play a Buffalo Bills team, so they'll be 0-2, and then you see what happens up there in Denver. But so looking at it now, I'm not as upset about it. But to me, what it comes down to is the principle. And once again, that's how you start your season.
Right.
When you have it there with 40 seconds remaining, 4th and 3, you're essentially telling your team, once you punt it, you're not getting the ball back.
Yeah.
So you're telling your team there in the very first game, as the head coach, we're okay with tying the game.
Right.
And for me, I wasn't a fan of that, but at the same time, afterwards, I've tried to feel like I try to be fair all across around.
Right.
I thought Lovie Smith did a good job of explaining it, and I understood. He said, look, hey, our defense, I feel like we were gassed at that point. He said our offense didn't have much momentum. Both things were true. And so, looking back on it, once again, to me, it was the principle, but I understand the logic behind it. I just would have liked to have seen him go for it there instead.
Yeah, I think that just showed more about what he thought about the offense, because up until that point, the offense was, once the fourth quarter started, the offense completely disappeared. I think in the fourth quarter, they only had 13 yards.
That big fumble was changed everything.
Yeah.
And the players and the coaches alluded to
Yeah, I mean, they had 13 yards in the fourth quarter. I mean, Davis Mills completed fourth quarter and overtime. I think he completed 3 out of 9 passes. So again, it's clear that confidence across the board was lost within the game, because the offense was moving really well in that second and third quarter, but that first and fourth quarter in OT, they just struggled to get things going. So I think what Levy was really saying was offense isn't going to get this, because if he really thought his offense can get it, he would went for it, because he knew that if he didn't get it, the defense was so gassed. 'Cause at that point, they had played 80-something snaps prior to the 4th and 3, and you knew that, okay, if we don't get it, which I feel that we won't, then boom, our defense is going to let them into field goal range, and that's going to be that. So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, then it's a tie, and it's not a loss, it's not a win, but it's a tie, so it's not the end of the world.
I agree. Now, you touched on Davis Mills there. You struggled there in the fourth quarter, but up until that point, the first, second, third quarter, he made some nice throws. There was plenty of things to work on overall, but I thought, a couple of ropes to O.J. Howard there, scoring there. I thought he made a couple plays, intermediately that I thought were nice, but plenty of room for improvement. That was my take on it. What did you see from Davis Mills?
I think Davis Mills was okay. I think I don't think he was as good as the numbers suggest. Because, look at the numbers. It's, okay, he had 2 touchdowns, 240 yards passing over 100. Like, okay, that's a really good game. But I think he was good when it was easy. When things were being schemed up for him, when his first read was there.
Game script was going to
play. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, the whole O.J. Howard throws, both of them, like, O.J. was open. That was a good play call by Pat Hamilton to use a play-action fake to be able to get, O.J. open, freeze the safety, freeze the linebackers, create that window so Davis could fire it in there. Those were really good throws. But when he tried to push the ball 10 yards and beyond on 10 yards, passes beyond 10 yards outside the numbers, we saw him struggle. Even we know that one pass to Brandon Cooks, the flea flicker, like it was underthrown. Like that should have been a touchdown. Think about it. If that's a touchdown, then the game is basically, over.
They got a field goal in,
right?
A field goal out of that.
Exactly. So it's little things that I think Davis has to pick up on, work on. Because the thing with Davis is he'll do things that'll make you go,
right?
Maybe he could be the guy. Something is there, but we're still trying to see what that something is. Right? Is that something? All right, you're a mid-tier quarterback or you're a low-end starter, or is that something, okay, you could be an upper-end starter. But there is something there where it's like, no, he's a starting NFL quarterback. You just want to see him when the game's on the line, when the pressure is rising, make plays. Because last year, people talk a lot about his stats from last year, but a lot of them, down the stretch, a lot of it was from people that I talked to around the league, and when I watched, a lot of it was in garbage time stats, you know what I'm saying, where the defense is kind of playing prevent. It's kind of not easier, but it's not as, difficult to get the yards that you're trying to get, things like that, because they're playing prevent, soft coverage, things like that, versus where teams are trying to make a play, trying to force you into a mistake. You would like to see, I would love to see Davis Mills in that moment in the fourth quarter be able to make plays, because, they give a 17-point lead, but that falls way more on the offense, in my opinion.
I agree.
Because if your offense isn't doing anything and defense is out there, they're eventually gonna break.
Right, especially when you have to try to tackle Jonathan Taylor for 4 quarters. That's very difficult. But to that point, I think this is all part of the Davis Mills experience that you're going to get this season. I think that's okay, because with Davis Mills being the guy that the front office has talked about, at least for this season, you'll get a chance to see him grow through it, have the opportunity to grow. He doesn't have to worry about somebody over his shoulder, potentially taking those reps. He will have a full season to show not only fans but the front office that he can be the leader of this franchise. And there might be some games where it might be like this. There might be, he might even have worse games than that, and he might have better games that once again show his potential there. So I like, if I as a fan or just somebody as a member of the media, to me it's like, okay, cool. Like, this is just part of the experience of trying to see if he can be the guy ultimately there. Defense now, I thought first 3 quarters,
they're phenomenal.
They were really good.
Yeah, they're
and then once again, the fourth quarter, they blew a 17-point lead. But once again, I didn't really feel like it was so much on the defense. But yeah, I mean, if your offense is getting 3 and outs early on in the fourth quarter and trying to tackle Jonathan Taylor, like I was kind of joking there, but I'm serious. Like the Colts have a very good offensive line that will wear on you. And then I thought secondary overall, like Matt Ryan made some throws. He's a good quarterback, so it is what it is.
It is what it is.
But I thought I thought Jonathan Owens had a really good game. I thought he made 2 game-saving tackles. Touchdown-saving tackles. He had one against Jonathan Taylor. We talked about that at the game. He was the last man to beat open space. That's not easy to do, and he wrapped him up there. And then, of course, the one that I think ultimately ended up in the 4th down stop where the man had caught it for the Colts in the back of the end zone, and he punched it out.
I remember that.
Stingley. There were some plays, or we've discussed this kind of off air as well too, where the man just, there was a lot of space around the wide receiver that I was, you wouldn't want to see from your cornerback, but he had that phenomenal pass breakup in the end zone that is only like a small amount of guys can make that type of play, and that to me shows you the potential of Derek Stingley Jr. And same thing with Steven Nelson as well, down the field. I've noticed people have tried Steven Nelson down the field in preseason. They did it with Deebo Samuel. They did it on Sunday with the Colts as well too, and he's been pretty good, especially down the field coverage. I like what they have in Steven Nelson. I feel like people aren't talking about him enough as a guy who can really help out as Derek Stingley Jr. continues to develop. And then of course Jerry Hughes as well. I mean, he was. How old is that guy at this point?
He's pretty old.
He was great out there. Jonathan Bernard made some plays as well too. From your vantage point, what did you see?
Yeah, I think the defense can actually be, I think above average. I think above average to good. Like they have pieces, like they've built the defense the way you want to in today's game, right? They got 2 viable corners. They have 2 versatile safeties. They have 2 guys that can come off the edge. They have I was watching Malik Collins when I was watching the game. He was all over the place. Like he was whooping some of the Colts offensive linemen's butt up throughout the day.
A good O-line too.
Yeah, a good O-line. There were plays where he was, being able to get penetration. Granted, yes, Jonathan Taylor still ran for what he ran for, but it took a lot of carries though.
A lot of gang tackling as well.
If a running back has 30-something carries and you hold him to about 150, granted that's a lot, but that's not that bad in reality, because if he's not breaking that big one, then he's moving the ball down the field and he's churning it. But again, you can live with that because those are long drives, and eventually the offense will make a mistake because that's usually what happens. Right. So I think the defense, and you obviously have Lovie Smith calling plays. Like the defense, I'm really high on the defense. I'm impressed with the defense because I was high on them throughout the preseason. I was like, okay, what I was seeing in practice was translated, and now what I've seen in preseason is translated to the regular season. Now they got a bigger task going against Russell Wilson and those boys, but I think they'll be up to it.
So let's talk about the Broncos there. Obviously, we watched what happened on Monday Night Football. You can kind of say Nathaniel Hackett and Lovie Smith, obviously 2 different situations late in the game, but both questionable decisions down the stretch. For the Texans, as of right now, is a tie, so you kind of live with that. If you're the Broncos, the way that game ended, Nathaniel Hackett elected to kick a 60-plus yard field goal instead of trusting his future Hall of Fame quarterback. It was just a reason why you would think went out and got him.
Man.
And they lost. And also, I think it's important to note too, in that division, you gotta have, those close games, you kind of have to have them with the Chiefs, with the Chargers, and the Raiders there. All those teams are potential playoff teams. You can't give up. You can't just give away games there.
I don't think the Raiders are a playoff team. I don't think the Raiders are a playoff team.
That's a discussion for another day. But either way, the Texans will get a hungry Broncos team at home. The debut of Russell Wilson at that stadium there. What are your expectations heading into that game?
Man, the defense better be ready. I think that but I do think the Texans match up well because they have. The Broncos have 3 really talented receivers in KJ Hamler, Sutton, and Jared Jeudy. But the Texans have 3 really good corners and Steven Nelson, Derek Stingley, and you have Desmond King in the nickel. So I think they match well. And then you also have the 2 versatile safeties in Petrie and Owens. So I think that they match up well in the pass game. The thing is, can they limit their run, Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, can they limit that? Because if they can limit that, then when the play passes come, then hopefully the linebackers won't suck up too much into it and bite on that too much, and creating some of those windows. Because I know you mentioned there was some plays where Derek Stingley had space around him. A lot of that was on. Some of those were on play action, which sucked up the
linebacker.
Yep, the linebacker
left a void in space.
Exactly, over the middle of the field. So if they can limit the run, then you'll be able to match it with the receiver. And nothing they're gonna have to be able to cover for like 4, 5, 6 seconds because Russell Wilson can extend. So, but I do think they match. The real question is, can the Texans offense be able to score and move the ball against the Broncos defense? Because on paper, they have a really, really good squad, right? The secondary has Pat Surtain, who's going to be arguably one of the best corners in the league. You have Simmons, who's one of the best safeties in the league right now. You know what I'm saying? You got a good the D-line, you know, with DJ Jones and Gregory. And you have, obviously, as you mentioned, Chubb, who had 2 sacks last night. So it's going to be for sure a battle. And in that aspect, like the Texans' offensive line is going to have to move the ball. Because the last thing you want is Davis to have to throw the ball 40 times against that defense.
Especially with that secondary there. The Texans win on Sunday if...
I think they win if they're 11-point underdog. I think they win if their defense can limit them, limit the Seahawks like the way limit the Broncos like the way the Seahawks limited the Broncos. Granted, like the Broncos still had a bunch of yards, but they hold them 16 points. If they can limit them to like, let's say like around 21, 22, and then the run game can get going and Davis Mills can play off of that, then I think they have a great shot. But if the run game can't get going, then they're going to be in a lot of trouble because that stadium is hard to play in. That the crowd's going to be rocking. The defense is going to be fired up. So yeah, I think the run game has to get going so Davis Mills can play off of that. Because when Davis Mills can be a complementary piece to the offense, to the run game, we've seen it be effective. Like the Chargers game was an example. We saw that against the Patriots a little bit where he threw for like 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. So again, like she has to be able to complement it, give him running game so he can play off of that.
Yeah, I agree. Texans, Broncos, obviously since this is more of the West Coast, the game starts a little bit later. That one will get underway a little bit after 3 o'clock there. DJ, appreciate you for joining me on the show. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining us.